Welcome to my channel. My name's Bissy, and it didn't feel like 9 days to me either. Wow, this episode was the two in this 1-2 punch of painful episodes to me. I'm going to break down every detail I could find for you. And at the end of this video, there'll be a smaller than usual spoiler section, as we stayed very much in show-only territory this episode. But I will expand on certain themes and reveal book context too. If you like this type of video, please let me know by hitting like and subscribe. Did you know that only 11% of you are subscribed right now? So it'd be really cool if we can get that number up. Now, we've got a lot to get into this episode, so with that said, let's get into the breakdown. The episode begins with the band being pulled over by a policeman. Lestat scares and impresses the band by reaching into the policeman's mind and making it all go away. TC thinks for the first time that she could become a vampire. Now, this line made me wonder, does she really want to become a vampire when something goes wrong with her turning? Is this how she ends up at the long table? We see that Daniel was completely unaffected by the debauchery, as he chills in his hanging coffin. Is that what that is? And side note, I've had to remind myself that we haven't actually met real Daniel this season yet. He wasn't at the auction as far as we've seen, and this Daniel is Lestat's recording of Lestat telling us, or the auction winner, about his experience with Daniel in 2025. We also get mention of Chekhov's manifesto in this first act, and of course, the gun does fire in the third. We move on to Louis, who sat in the diner watching Regina. Now, I just wanted to note that Louis' position in the diner gets closer and closer to Regina as the episode progresses. He starts off far away by the front door, and then ends up right at the bar as she works. Lestat mentions that Louis is far more feared now than wanted by the other vamps. We also learn that Regina isn't from New York, she's from East London, and Lestat says that being in the same place with her brings more comfort than ending Bruce did. Now, I just wanted to add another note here, that the way Lestat says her was interesting to me, in the sentence when he says, in being in the same place with her. It's almost like he's the only one who's able to distinguish the difference. It reminded me of Louis' version of Claudia's turning, when Lestat said, "You don't know this girl." This version of Claudia, well, Lestat's telling of Regina's impression, well, what has Louis gotten himself into? What has Regina walked into? And back on the bus, it seems that Larry and Alex never lost contact, despite Alex walking away. And bless Salamander, he's trying to write songs. However, I really enjoyed how Lestat actually seemed to be encouraging him, and so was TC. I mean, even though all of this is happening on the bus, Lestat is still calling out to Gabriella. And speaking of Gabriella, Daniel says, "So, let's talk about your mother." Now, Muse Nikki drops a heavy truth when speaking about Gabriella. Now, similarly to Dreamstat, Muse Nikki is from Lestat's own mind. So it's his own subconscious that says that Gabriella is a great love, not his first love. We flash back to soon after Gabriella and Lestat have left Armand. Gabriella jokes that they could say that the coffin on top of the wagon belongs to their uncle Marius. Now, there's a little bit more on this in the spoiler section. But what I wanted to note here is that this seems pretty soon after Nikki's passing. And to me, Lestat isn't showing any signs that he's being plagued by Nikki's death. Now, my theory is that the version of his time with Nikki that Lestat gifted Daniel was not the entire truth. In the novel, Lestat and Nikki break up before Nikki's end. Now, this is also what Lestat tells Claudia in season 1. Now, of course, this is Louis' memory, but he was there. And it's only after they break up that they leave Paris. And it was whilst he was away that he received news of Nikki's passing and the treatment by Armand. So if there is a little bit more to the story, it would make sense that he's in good spirits as he leaves Paris. I mean, if I'm right, Nikki is suffering, but he's still alive at this point. Well, it makes sense to me anyway, but it's just a theory. And most probably, it's wishful thinking. What do you think? Now, Lestat lies about Gabriella and says she would not hunt. Now, I've been racking my brain. Where was that from? I feel like it's in one of the books, but I can't remember, and I just didn't have time to go through everything to find out. Can any book readers help me out? And then on a side note, I also wanted to mention Dr. Farid's story. It was only a few lines, but the delivery was so moving. And for a moment, it was nice in a way that Lestat seemed so much more or should I say so much less formal with Dr. Farid than Louis ever did. Another note, what was Dr. Farid actually doing? Was Lestat feeding intravenously? Or was Dr. Farid taking blood from him? We also learned that Armand turned Daniel on a private jet. And my lasting thought was, what went on in those 22 days? My goodness. Now, of course, they travelled by private jet in The Queen of the Damned. But what does this mean for the show? Does Daniel remember anything? And speaking of Daniel and Armand, we get their long-awaited reunion. And just the sight of Armand completely throws Daniel off his game immediately. His anger is palpable. He calls Armand a boy, and to me, it sounded like he meant the original meaning of the phrase, the meaning that originated in American prisons. He also calls him a friendless bottom twink. Ouch! Now Armand continues to force himself onto Daniel when he starts to read the letter that's all about how much he's hurt Daniel. He didn't ask if he could. He didn't care to know how Daniel would feel about hearing it. He just launched straight into it, which demonstrates to me that this exercise was not about Daniel, not at all. It was for Armand, and for Armand only. Now, I wanted to make another note here of Armand's accent. Now, it has been bothering me this entire season. Why is it French again? Now, I went on a long journey thinking about this week. I spent way too much time thinking about it. And I think ultimately, and unfortunately, the answer comes back to the fact that this is Lestat's version of Armand. He knew him as Parisian Armand, not Dubai Armand with a British accent. Now, a double side note, just how he acquired that British accent is really strange to me. I mean, he travelled with Louis for all those years, but Louis didn't pick up an accent. Now, I do wonder if Daniel really didn't get any particular powers from Armand. Does Armand's blood really suck? Or is it because Daniel's been out on his own for 2 years without his maker, without a mentor? Back with Louis and Regina, they seem to be bonding. Regina's done her research on Thomas Pitt and confronts him about his watching her. Now initially, Louis doesn't want to put the truth on her, but Regina says she wants to know. And Louis, in an act of surprising honesty, and honesty that he didn't always extend to the real Claudia, tells Regina that the book, Interview with the Vampire, is real. Now that's as far as he can go in that moment, but that's enough to inspire Regina to read the book for herself. We see a memory of Gabriella and Lestat in a tavern in Italy. Gabriella is approached by a man who recognizes her from her mortal life. Now, he doesn't know that it's actually her, and she goes on to tell Lestat that she's no longer a marquise. She's no longer a wife. She's no longer a mother. She is now death. We jump back to 2025. We're in Albany and Alex is catching up with Larry. Now, Alex pointedly doesn't describe Armand as his sponsor, but I'm presuming that this is Armand that we're speaking about, following their meeting. Now, this new person in Alex's life has erased some really painful memories from his mind, the bad things that he felt he was putting onto others. And Alex seems so incredibly zealous right now. It's actually pretty scary. Also, if it is Armand, and I believe it is, he hasn't withheld the fact that he's a vampire. But he is withholding some of his powers, the cloud gift in particular. And my goodness, he does have Alex convinced of his power, doesn't he? Alex isn't even free to say his name to his brother. And over to Lestat and Daniel. Daniel fights back at Lestat and brings up the fact that he dropped Louis. He asks if that was love too. Now, I really do wonder if we will get Lestat's version of that night at any point. Now, Gabriella is not true to her word and she doesn't show up in Albany. Lestat is breaking. And whilst he's leaving a voicemail for Gabriella, we the audience get flashes of Lestat with his mother in that bedroom and of an eye. Now, I think that eye is on the screen behind him as well. Her abandoning him is directly connected to the abuse, in my opinion. Or should I say, her control over him through sex and love. Now we flash back to Italy and the "it annoyed me" scene was wild. The waves crashing in the background as Lestat walks in on Gabriella. I mean, the sound of her leaving him is always in the back of his mind, just like those footsteps in episode 1. Now, in the most uncomfortable scene in this entire series for me, Gabriella tells Lestat that she loves him, which gives him all he's ever wanted from her. He's annoyed by her loudness with the man from the tavern. Her response is, and? Lestat says that on the day when he killed the wolves and she tended his wounds, they were mother and son. Now the unsaid thing, in my opinion, was, we were mother and son and you touched me like that. You were my mother and I needed my mother, but you didn't want to be what I needed. You touched me like that and that's all I could get from you. I was your son. You were my mother. You were my mother. Lestat then gets on top of her, and with the man from the tavern's body right next to them, well, we all saw what happened next. Lestat wakes up abruptly out of his dream and awakens to the harsh reality on the bus. Instead of his band, he's greeted by Armand. Now, Lestat is very harsh with Armand here. He says that sure, Armand should be who he is, but be it really far away from him. He also tells him to end himself. Yikes. He says that Armand does more damage than the Queen. Now this is all foreshadowing. Now similar to Daniel, Armand wants to read his letter to Lestat. And in it, he describes that he was indeed delusional when they first met. And having known exactly what Magnus was capable of, he should have met Lestat with empathy and kindness. Which suggests to me that Armand knew exactly what Magnus did to Lestat. Armand goes on to say that he walked on a carpet of eggshells for nearly a century, thinking that Lestat would expose his massive lie. Lestat confirms that he did it to torture him, and tangentially, make Louis miserable. And side note, I found it really interesting that Armand actually asked if he could read his letter to Lestat, whereas he forced his apology onto Daniel. And that's very telling in my opinion. Very. At the end of their conversation, we see that Armand still must have control. He can't help himself. He still tries to instruct Lestat on his way out. He wants Lestat to stop playing music. He's the cause of major upset. Now and to come. Lestat says he only has 5 shows left and invites Armand to experience the show for himself. We then head back to Louis and Regina, and Louis's been waiting for her to arrive at work. She's missed a couple of shifts and has been worried. And on this night she arrives late and walks straight past him as he stares at her. Louis uses his mind gift to listen to Regina and her boss's conversation in the back. Now I did wonder, how often has Louis used his mind gift to listen in on Regina? It's creepy, but Louis has been acting like a creeper this episode. And desperate times will make you do desperate things, which is really sad. I mean, this interaction does not go well. Regina's read the book, she knows what Louis is, and she's scared. But I will say she handled this incredibly well, in my opinion. And at the end of the conversation, it seems that the seeds of their eventual agreement are sown right here. Louis knows that she has an OnlyFans, and that she's been struggling. Regina can see, even if Louis can't just yet, that Louis wants her to play a role for him. Now, I did say this in my reaction video, but my goodness, I have to repeat it here. If the line is right here, right in front of you, then Regina putting on Claudia's actual dress would be way over there, completely over the line. And I have to wonder, if Regina does actually do this, I hope she doesn't, but if she does, how would Louis ever recover from that? Now, over to Lestat's gig, he's in his element. He introduces himself as the anxiously attached, toxic bitch with the personality disorder called Lestat. He also brings attention to Armand, who's in the crowd. Now, was the brave thing that Armand did for Lestat to pin Nikki down? Or was it something else entirely, something that we haven't seen yet? Now, what I wanted to point out here is, did you notice Armand's guards or followers right next to him? I saw them immediately, their faces looked so mean. Now, they stay in the background as Lestat sings the song that is specifically for Armand. It's called Big Boss, and it was wild. Now, I did wonder if the inception of this song came from Salamander's song from the bus. Lestat says that we wrote a song about you, and we know that Salamander's a fan of Armand's. I don't know, that could be silly, but they sounded similar to me. And then we see that Daniel doesn't seem to be taking Lestat's humiliation of Armand particularly well. which leads us on to Daniel and Armand's showdown. Now, as Daniel's following Armand, Armand does the subtlest of gestures with his hand, which sends his two guards away. Now, on my first watch, I didn't catch it, but on my second watch, oh my goodness. Armand. Ooh, Armand. When I saw it, it reminded me so much of Jasper from Talamasca and how he commands his followers or his ghouls with just a flick of a finger. Just something to keep in mind, as I don't think that Armand is as alone or as lonely as he wants people to think. We get onto the vampire bond that seems to really be distressing Daniel. However, it's also driving Armand mad that he can no longer get into Daniel's head. In my reaction video, you can see that initially he got me. I thought he looked so dejected, so sad. However, right now, the Great Conversion seems to be Armand's main focus. He seems to be using his apology tour to further his agenda. And Daniel, after his conversation with Lestat, confronts Armand about Dubai. He wants to know if it was all lies. And was he in fact 2 steps ahead the whole time? Armand says that it was love. Not his love for Louis, but it was love. His love for Daniel, or his love for Lestat? I mean, I'm leaning towards his love for Daniel, and I just can't wait to see how that love developed in the show. And back with Lestat, we see what abandonment really does to him. Now, I couldn't make out exactly what Nikki was writing on the mirror, but what he does say is that when she's not here and when he's not here, I'm third in the queue. And that brings me on to Gabriella's song. Now, in episode 1, Lestat was working on this song as he's waiting for any kind of response from Gabriella. He sings that she used to teach him how to kiss by candlelight. Now, that says to me that seems like it was nightly abuse. Now, my interpretation of the lyrics that we hear in the show is that he wants to bring her flowers. He wants to cheer her up like he used to. Not this new candlelight kissing lessons. He wants to return to the innocence of a child, bringing his parent flowers. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but that's what came to me, sadly. On that beach, Lestat wants them to rule as monarchs together, and Gabriella, despite her wish for desolation, still will not commit to him. In the night, we see that Gabriella's cut her hair and she's left him on that shore by himself with not much more than a neck piece. A true abandonment. And back in 2025, Lestat still cannot stand Yada. In fact, as soon as he gets even a glimpse of him, he flicks him out of the way. Now, Gabriella's absence continues to make Lestat revert. He sings a song to the tune of The Wheels on the Bus. And suddenly, the fanatic from episode 1 fires on Lestat, right in front of everyone. Christine is shocked, but we don't see them using Lestat's healing blood back on the bus. I wonder why that was. And then, my goodness. Now for the moment that broke my heart and scared me in equal measure. Louis continues to watch Regina, and he's not subtle, even though he could be, being a vampire and all. He tries to keep a distance by sitting in his car, but he's unable to leave her completely alone. She knows he's there, and that's what he wants. She waves him over, and he clumsily makes his way over to the diner. She's thought about their dynamic and seems to be comfortable enough to drive it forward, even if Louis can't himself. She states the amount of money that she would like, and Louis immediately agrees. Now, I have to admit that until she spoke the next lines, I didn't know exactly what was happening on my first watch. But it became all too clear as soon as Regina steadied herself and said, in Claudia's accent, "What now, Daddy Lou?" Oh, my goodness. The look on Louis' face, the implications for the future. How far will they take this? How long can she keep it up? Has Louis bitten off more than he can chew? Has Regina been pulled into a world that she won't escape from with her mortal life? Will she put on that dress? Will Louis be forced to lose this version of Claudia too? It feels like Louis going to lose himself in this. I mean, he seems to have lost himself already. But I've had a couple of days to think about it, and I have to say that my overwhelming thought at the moment, right now, is I'm just really sad for Louis. He loved Claudia. He's been riddled with guilt ever since her passing. I mean, I cannot imagine seeing the face of somebody that I loved after they're passed. I mean, what would I do? How close would I want to be to that person? Could I walk away? So many questions, so much pain, but ultimately, Regina isn't Claudia. And I hope Louis wakes up at some point. Will it be Lestat to shake him awake? And finally, what Gabriella wants for the future is dark. It's evil. She said it herself. Now, in episode 1, Lestat mentioned the eradication of the Y chromosome. And that isn't exactly Gabriella's plan right now, but it is someone's plan, and that'll be in the spoiler section too. Now, I do wonder what were those words that Gabriella used to get Lestat to turn that bus around. I mean, at this point, it seems like Gabriella could have said anything. He just wanted her again. And she's back. He wants to keep her there. But ultimately, he is going to face his muses and make that album. And if you stayed this long, thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. I love all of you guys. So thank you again for watching. And if you don't want to hear about the spoilers, there are only a couple this week. But if you don't want to hear about the spoilers, thank you again. And I will see you in my next one. But if you do, let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to speak about was when Gabriella mentioned Uncle Marius. Now, Marius, as we know, is Armand's maker. In episode 3, Armand says to Gabriella that Marius is dead. Now, as far as Armand knows, he was. Because in the novel and in season 2, we learn that Marius' studio was set on fire. And Armand thinks that Marius was burned in that fire. However, Marius is alive. And Lestat is going to go on a massive journey to find him. It lasts for years. I mean, I don't know how long it will last for in the show, but in the book, it lasts for years. He writes notes all over the place. Wherever he goes, all over the world, he's looking for Marius. And Marius eventually senses that Lestat is looking for him. He also finds these notes that he's left behind. And eventually they meet. Now, Marius, of course, is the keeper of those who must be kept. And that's where I'm going to leave it, I think, for here. Because soon, I think so soon, we're going to get into it. And as soon as we do, we'll discuss everything. But this does lead me on to the spoiler section too. Now, as I mentioned, Lestat said the eradication of the Y chromosome, which of course is the male chromosome. Now, the eradication of all males is something that isn't Gabriella's plan at all. It is actually Akasha's plan in the novel, Queen of the Damned. So that was a massive, massive hint. And I'm so sorry I didn't pick up on that in my first watch of episode 1. Okay, so that's all of the spoilers I've got for you this week. Thank you so much again for watching. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. I really would appreciate it. Okay, and with that said, I've actually got a bonus video for you tomorrow. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks again. Thank you. Bye.